Hello and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Andrea from Coffee, Teach, and Inspire, and today I am going to show you an introductory tutorial for Procreate. So if you follow me on Instagram, you know that I love to doodle, and I always get a ton of questions about what kind of iPad I use, the stylus, and I've also been asked a lot to make a video on how to use Procreate. So to answer your questions, I have the newest version of the iPad. It's not a Pro or a Mini or anything, just the iPad. I also recently splurged and bought myself an Apple Pencil, and I really truthfully love it. But you can also use third-party styluses as well. I used to use, this is the Adonis Pixel. I've had it for a year or so, and the tip started wearing down, so as a birthday gift I bought myself an Apple Pencil. One thing to note though is this is the first generation Apple Pencil, and you can only use it with certain iPads. I believe it's the 2018 iPad and up. The second generation Apple Pencil you can only use with iPad Pros. So make sure you do your research before you purchase any styluses or iPads. So the first thing that you're going to do is press this plus button. It'll give you some canvas sizes. You can add some custom canvases. So this one is for an Instagram story. I have one for a thumbnail, a banner, and a couple others. Or you can just use the ones that Procreate has made for you, like square, 4x6, a piece of paper. If you want to add your own custom canvas size, you can press this button right here. I usually just Google the pixel size that I need, put it in. You can title the canvas if you want, and then you just press create. So let's just do Alright, and then it'll pop up for you. So the first thing that you want to do is play around with some brushes. Get familiar with ones that you like. Procreate has a ton of different kinds. So just play around, click some, draw with it. See which ones you really like. To change the size, there is some settings down here. You can make it bigger or smaller. So bigger, smaller. You can also change something called the opacity, or how clear it is. So that's full opacity, and this is half opacity, so it's a lot lighter. You can also play around with some settings. I will include this in a part 2 video because this is more advanced, but there's a lot of different settings for each of the brushes that you can play around with. But don't worry about that now, just play around and see what brushes you like the best and what you think that you'll use. So one of my favorite features is using 2 fingers to undo. So if I just you can tap anywhere on the canvas and it will undo it. If you want to redo something, use 3 fingers to tap. You can also use these buttons right here, undo and redo, but I find it easy for me to just tap for when I need to do that. If you want to quickly delete or redo everything, you can hold. So I'm gonna quickly undo everything. I just held my 2 fingers down and it erased everything. Another thing that you can do is pinch to zoom in or zoom out. You can rotate the canvas however you want just by using your 2 fingers. So we're gonna play around with some colors. Up here, this circle button is your colors. It comes with some palettes, and to access these, you're gonna click down here. So as you can see, Procreate has given you some palettes, And whatever one you draw with, you can set as the default. You can also make your own palette by moving around this wheel. So if I want to create a new palette, I'm going to come over here and press the plus button and make sure it's set as default. So here's a blank palette for you to make. You're going to come down here to disc or classic. Either way, you can access colors and just drag around the wheel for different colors, and inside the wheel how dark or light you want that color, and you'll be able to see it up here. So let's do that. If I want to add this to my palette, I'm just going to tap the box. If I accidentally do it twice, I can hold it down and press delete. So I'm going to add a couple more. If I want to reorder, if I want to put it in color order, I can drag it and drop it wherever I'd like it. So hold down, drag it, however you want. All right, so before I start drawing, I want to tell you that layers are your best friend in Procreate. To add a layer, it's up here, these two squares. And each time you draw, so I'm gonna draw something. Let's draw. I'm gonna come in and add another layer. One of the features that I love most about Procreate is something called Quick Draw. So I'm gonna undo this because it looks a little bit sloppy. I'm gonna make this a little bigger. What it does is it makes shapes perfect for you. So obviously we aren't going to draw a perfect circle, but if you hold down, you draw a circle and hold down, it will make the circle perfect for you. You can edit it to make it a circle or an ellipse. You can also do triangles. Remember, just hold down for a second. Triangle. So you can do squares. You can also make it bigger or smaller. You can rotate it by clicking. You can edit it, so make a rectangle, quadrilateral, square. You can drag it, you can move it. You can also do a line and an arc. That's one of the features that I use every single time that I'm drawing, is a quick draw, because obviously I can't draw a perfect line or circle or square. We are going to draw a rainbow today, so I'm going to use my quick draw to help me draw the arc. Add my layer. Okay, so let's pretend that I don't want the blue here anymore. I still want to keep the shape. I'm gonna come over, choose my color that I want to change it to. I'm gonna grab the circle up here and drop it. So this is called color drop. You can use it with anything. You can use it as a fill, like kind of like a bucket feature would. So if I draw a circle, I can drag that and it'll fill in the circle. So if I decide that I want to add some designs here, but I'm not sure, you can turn this layer off. You can turn that one on. If I want to duplicate it, I'm gonna swipe right. I can either delete it, duplicate it, or lock it. So I'm gonna turn it off for now. I'm gonna change my brush. Also, if you want a white, if you come up here, but it's still kind of green, double tap and it'll change it to perfect white. Same thing if you come down here with black. If I double tap, it'll be black and not kind of like a dark green. So let's say I wanted more room, like this is not as even as I wanted it to be. I'm gonna come up here, select the layer that I want to move, and I'm gonna click this button. So you can, this is called transform. You can make it smaller, bigger, you can move it around. Right now it's on uniform. So if however big or small I make it, it's gonna be uniform. But if I want to, if I click freeform, it's not locked into its shape. You can also play around with it. You can distort it, so I can make it at an angle, I can warp it. And here I accidentally didn't make a new layer, so if I want to only edit the green part, if I want to change it, but I want to leave these specks and only change the green part, come up here, this is the selection tool, and you can do a rectangle and it'll choose everything that's in the rectangle, but that really won't help us now because I need just this little spot. You could do an ellipse, you could do freehand. So right now it's stuck on rectangle. I'm gonna press clear down here at the bottom. I'm gonna click freehand and I am going to just draw around this little area. All right, so I just have this selected. I'm gonna come up here to transform and now see how these are both in the same layer, but I just selected this to edit. And then to unselect it, you just come up here, press that button. All right, so now I want to write something, but I don't really have room to write it. So these are all different layers, and instead of moving them, making them smaller individually, what I'm going to do is swipe left on all of them. So now you can see that they are all selected. I'm gonna come up here to transform. I'm gonna make it a little bit smaller. There we go. All right, when I write, I utilize another tool that Procreate has. So up here are the tools. You can add text. So if you aren't comfortable with writing something on your own, you can add text. You can just write rainbow. Move it down here. You can also import fonts. So if I go to edit style, over here I have some of the fonts that I have downloaded. And I can change the size of it. I can change the spacing of it. The opacity. This will change how much space is in between. So if you have a couple of lines, you can make the lines closer together or further apart. And like I said, you can import fonts. So if you have fonts on your computer that you like, you can download it and send it to Procreate. If I want to change the color, I can come up here. But if I want to write my own, another tool that I use is over here on Canvas. I'm gonna turn on the drawing guide. So this gives you a grid. You can also edit this, which is nice. So you can make it, if it's too distracting, if you just want something light, you can change the opacity. Up here you can change the colors if you want something dark or light. I usually don't play around with this too much, but one thing that I do play around with is the grid size. So see how I made this? I'm gonna use this size to write in. If I wanted it bigger, I can make it bigger. If I wanted it smaller, I can make it smaller. You can also change the thickness of the lines. That's not something that I really play around with much either. Another cool feature on the drawing guide is you see these down here, you can change them. So isometric, if you wanted to draw some lines. Perspective, I don't really use this one much, but you can create a perspective. And symmetry, so whatever I draw on this side will show up on this side. You can also change it to horizontal, so whatever shows up I draw here shows up down here. Quadrant, same thing, whatever I draw here shows up in all 4 quadrants, and then radial will show up in a circle, and I'll show you that in just a little bit. So I'm gonna go back to my 2D grid, press done. I'm gonna add a new layer. I'm gonna zoom in a little bit. So I can edit this, I can move it. I can also change the opacity. So if I decide that this is too dark, I can come up here to my layers, select this layer. If you press N, you can change a lot of things. You can change the color of it. You can play around with this. But up here is the opacity, so I can make it a lot lighter, like that. Okay, now I'm going to show you how to use the radial layer. It's a lot of fun to play around with. So again, you're going to go to Tools, Canvas, and then Drawing Guide, Edit Drawing Guide, and down here, Symmetry, Options, Radial. And just doodle. The assisted draw feature on this is really nice. I'm gonna hide this layer and I'm gonna change this back to 2D grid, and down here I'm gonna turn on assisted drawing. So this helps you draw straight horizontal or vertical lines. Like look, I could draw it diagonally and it would draw a straight line for me. So you don't have to use the quick draw feature if you wanted to make multiple perfect straight lines. So some more tools that I like is the video. This is really cool to watch. It'll show you everything that you did with your canvas. You can export this if you want to. There's also some preferences that you can edit, and then a help guide. When you're done and you want to share it, you can share the image to Procreate, Photoshop. So if you still want to work on some layers, you can send it to Photoshop, and instead of compressing the pictures, it'll keep all of your layers in Photoshop for you to edit. A PDF, you can send it as a JPEG or PNG, and it will compress it so you won't have those layers. And I'm honestly not sure what TIFF is. I've never used it. And if you want to keep those layers, you can down here share those layers as a PDF, a PNG, a GIF, or an animated picture MP4. So in a different video, I will show you how you can make GIFs using the layers. It's a lot of fun. I had so much fun showing you guys how to use Procreate, and I hope that you learned some new things. If you have any questions for me, please leave them in the comments below. Like I said, I plan on making a second or maybe a third video on more advanced things that you can do using Procreate. I just wanted to show you the basics so that you could start playing around in Procreate, figure it out a little bit more and get comfortable. So let me know what you want to see in the next video. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe.